And welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate you all for joining us here on this Wednesday evening. And today might be Kelcey's favorite day of the week because we are going to be lighting the beam today. That is right. You heard first. And I'm DJ, joined as always by my co-host Kelcey. And you know what, Kelcey? It's a pretty good day for you, I would say, too. The beam is lit, and it's something, for lack of better terms, you've been waiting for. Is one of your top 10 favorite players in the NBA is now joining your top favorite team in the NBA.
Yeah, this has been the best day, last couple days for me. Obviously, we joked about this on Jared's show last week. We talked about it on our show. DeMar DeRozan, where's he going? Well, the answer is he's going to Sacramento, which is one of my favorite places for him to go. And it makes me so happy because, as I joked about on Jared's show, anything that makes the Lakers suck more is great with me. And on top of it, you take my favorite, probably offensive player in the league, and put him on my favorite team. The guy who I will literally go and pick in my 2K league, in my 2K fantasy teams, to go fill in my fantasy draft roster for the Kings as my starting two guard. So I'm the most excited about this. You get rid of Harrison Barnes, and you bring in one of the best two guards in the league, despite his age, was still one of the best two guards in the league that wasn't, let's say, a superstar too. So I am so excited. I'm so happy. You can see behind me, I have the purple lit up behind me as well. You heard the sound. The beam is lit. I'm so excited for it to already be October and be basketball season. Forget anything else in between. Bring on the purple and black. And don't be surprised when it's basketball season to see a couple Kings jerseys behind me, because I'm thinking that's coming.
Probably a DeMar DeRozan back to one as well. Come in for 3 years, about a pretty decent deal as well, too. And on top of that, too, I'm going to look forward to seeing him and De'Aaron Fox on the break after Sabonis rebound and dishing it out, too. Like, there's going to be some fun times in Sacramento. I think offensively that team's going to be an absolute hoot to watch, seeing him as that hybrid 2 to 3 alongside Fox and Keegan Murray and how they have it laid out there too. And on top of it, the mid-range is still there. Like, we got ourselves a mid-range. It is back and it's alive and well. Him and Fox and Sabonis, like it won't be the Splash Brothers. It'll be like the lukewarm Sprinkle Brothers, but it's gonna be great to watch because they're gonna go in. That team offensive rating is gonna go back to where it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I really. The only thing that would have made this better is if they had managed to keep Kevin Huerter on that team and not let him walk away. That would have been great. Getting rid of a shooter like that is tough business when you bring in a bunch of mid-range. Now you need somebody on the outside to knock down threes. Bring back a Peja Stojakovic style, the Red Rocket and Kevin Huerter. And either one would be great. But you know what? I'll take DeMar DeRozan for now, and we'll figure it out. Because as I've said before, if anybody's heard me talk about DeMar DeRozan, it's not that he's afraid to shoot threes. Just why shoot a lower percentage 3 when you can shoot a higher percentage 2? Because nobody guards the mid-range anymore, and people just give it up because it's not statistically relevant. Tell DeMar DeRozan that, who was 5th in the league or 7th in the league in scoring last year. He was top 10 guy in scoring last year, and by the way, has been top 10 guy scoring in his career about 7 times, I believe, if not more. So at least 7 that I bothered to count with. I stopped counting after I got on the second hand, really. I was like, well, that's more than anybody else on the team ever had, so we'll take it. But yeah, no, I'm excited, as you can tell. A little bit giddy. Not that giddy, though.
Giddy enough. It's giddier than you were at the end of the season, so it's definitely a plus looking forward. Go and let us know down below what you think about DeMar DeRozan to the Kings. Does this propel them to a higher playoff spot? Does this keep them balanced? What do you think this does for the Kings moving forward? But we were glad to light the beam, get that out of the way, too, but now it's about time to kind of get into the regularly scheduled programming. That, of course, will start with the tip-off. The tip-off brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. Use code HighLowSports to get yourself $20 off your first set of tickets for whatever sporting event you might want to go to, including maybe the MLB All Star game, which is where we're going to go and start. And you might need a little bit more than $20 off to get those tickets, but you know what? If you can get them, go get them. So the MLB All Star lineups are set. We are just about less than a week away, actually, from the MLB All Star weekend festivities. As we did last year, and we do every year, we take a look at the roster, see if there's anyone who got snubbed, anyone who kind of surprised us, anyone we didn't like in there, and I'll go ahead and start off with it. This year, weirdly enough, I think it was kind of like last year. I think they got a lot of them right. Like, I didn't see too many things where there's a holes. I mean, obviously the Phillies, the Guardians, and the Dodgers, they kind of filled up a lot of the rosters, deservingly so. I mean, that's 3 of the 4 best teams in baseball by winning percentage and wins. So I think they got a lot of it right. I'll just have one that person I kind of wish could have got in there. I think Christian Walker from the Diamondbacks should have found his way in there. I think
Yeah.
it's almost like a joke how it's almost like a running joke. Like, how much more can we underrate him? Let's keep it going. And it's not like Corbin Carroll is obviously awesome. He's kind of like the leader last year for him, one of the leaders. He struggled a bit this year. Christian Walker has now fallen off. He's kind of part of the reason the Snakes are, for lack of a better term, still alive. He's at I think he's at a very underrated season. Obviously, he's not getting in as a first baseman over like Freddie Freeman or Bryce Harper, but maybe over Pete Alonso. And Pete Alonso's really good, but I think Christian Walker. I want to find a way to get him in there. I think he's been very underrated. So he's going to be my one quote unquote snub / surprise he didn't make it. But in the same vein, I'm not sure I really want to kick anybody else off either. Like I don't know. Usually MLB does a pretty surprisingly good job with the All Star voting. I think they did a pretty good job this year too. Christian Walker's just the one I kind of wish they could have found a way to get in there.
Yeah, I think that's an easy pick for kind of a snub. And you look at it and you're just like, oh, well, he's really good again. Surprise, surprise, said no one anywhere. And yet voters still managed to miss this one. And it comes down to the end of the day, and we've talked about this before on the show. We did last year with the All Star game, and the year before that, when there were really a lot of snubs, was 2 years ago. Last year, not so bad. This year, I'd say also not too bad. But there's still the fact that over 50% of the vote comes from the fans. And while that's great for reserves, I don't necessarily think that's great for starters. I feel like starters should be rewarded for the talent that they put on the field, and the reserves should be the fan vote. That's fine with me. Or make it down like you pick 20 of the players and then fans pick 5. That's cool too, because then we'd have, the statistically best players in the game and everything like that. So, but I mean, again, this year, not so bad. I have a couple actually that I'd say were probably snubs. Looking at the AL, I'm going to go Josh Smith with the Rangers, batting .296, 8 home runs, 4 stolen bases on the year. And it's obviously down to the fact that the position player for the Rangers is Marcus Semien. Makes sense. But also, how can you sleep on Josh Smith and his ability right now? And I'd say in the NL, I'm looking at Bryce Terang. Second baseman for the Brewers, 284, 6 home runs, 29 stolen bases at the break. That's, in today's day and age, that's pretty big. That's a lot of stolen bases to just not make an All-Star game. It's obviously not Ellie levels, but it's as close as number 2 can get in today's day and age.
You take away Ellie, and he's leading Ellie's freakishly outlandish stat, and you suddenly have the league leader in stolen bases. That's another one that's kind of a travesty as well. However, we do want to note from our good friend Hector at Insert Name FC, Jordan finally gets in as a DH now that Ohtani is out of the way. So AL DHs rejoice as Ohtani is now out of the way. So speaking of out of the way too, he does have a comment too, kind of alluding to what you'll be getting into a little bit later with the UN's men's national team. So
don't worry, well, those comments will come up a little bit later. Don't you worry, Hector. I have a whole segment planned for that.
There will be blood. I don't know whose, but it will be there. So overall, feels like All-Star game. We're kind of on a similar page. There are a few guys you want to see in there, but overall, they once again do a pretty good job. And I do, weirdly enough, like the thing where they have one person represented from each team. I always kind of thought that was neat. Obviously, it might be harder to do in other sports. You can't really do it in basketball because there's 30 players and 30 teams, so it doesn't quite work the same. But for MLB, and I think that's pretty cool. So I love that they do get that in. But
yeah, that's always been one of my favorite because unlike a lot of teams that don't get represented, like the All-Star, like the Midsummer Classic is the quintessential All-Star game. And as much as I give crap to All-Star games and All-Star weekends, I think the MLB still is one of the best at doing this. And the fact is they still represent every single team in whatever city they travel to, because they do travel to a different city every time. It's not like the same 7 in rotation. It is literally every single one of the MLB stadiums, and that's huge. Who knows? Probably next time they're going to do one in Mexico or in Canada, not in Toronto, Canada, but like Vancouver or something like that. Just because they do travel with these guys, and it's not often you get to see every jersey for a team, except for the All-Star game. And if nobody knows what I'm talking about, they wear their home jerseys and their away jerseys in these situations. Obviously, I'm still waiting for them to break out the City Connects like what the NBA did one year, where they let them wear their alternate jerseys instead of just their home or aways. That would be really cool too. But I think it's always something that I enjoy. It's like my favorite thing of some football teams where they wear their home jerseys away and their home jerseys at home as well, just because it's entertaining. Or in the Cowboys case, one of the reasons why I do enjoy being a Cowboys fan is they wear their aways at home sometimes. And that's also really cool because they wear their homes on the road more often than not. So yeah, I always like that part of the All Star game as well. But yeah, I think every team should be represented in an All Star game. You're taking the best player from each team is the goal, and why not do that? Because sometimes there is a guy, let's say the Angels, for example. Maybe it's not a great season for him, but there's two guys on that team that should be vying for a spot on the All Star game, and it also gives them credentials too. Because MLB is one of those things you can rack up a ton of stats throughout your career and have nothing to show for it if it wasn't for an All-Star game, because you just end up on the Detroit Tigers in a down season, the New York Yankees for 10 years after 2009. Let's not forget how bad they were then. The Boston Red Sox in recent years. It's the Giants after 2015. There are times where there are just down turns in franchises, and there are players that are borderline great that don't get anything more than an All-Star recognition because of that. And it's good. It's one of the few things that baseball can do to control that, and I do appreciate them still doing that.
Absolutely, 100%. And we always kind of talk about MLB, maybe NHL, the two best All-Star weekends, weeks, breaks in all sports. Part of that is in no small part due to the timeless classic that is the Home Run Derby. Unlike the dunk contest and other things, it continues to maybe not get better with age, but it definitely doesn't lose any luster, that is for sure. It is still one of the premier All-Star events across all sports. Right now, we don't have the betting odds quite yet, unfortunately, but don't worry. Once we get closer, we'll be throwing some money down on those. But we do know who is participating. We will have Gunnar Henderson, Alec Boehm. We do have Bobby Witt Jr., Pete Alonso, once again, Jose Ramirez, and a few others as well that I don't know off the top of my head. But we do have a good lineup.
Marcell Ozuna,
there you go.
Adolis Garcia, and Teoscar Hernandez, by the way, also rounding up that crowd.
Rounding out a very solid group there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just keep it quick and short. Who we think is going to win right now. I don't know who's going to be the favorite, who's not going to be the favorite, but I'm weirdly leaning towards, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to make a little bit of noise. I think obviously he's really good at in all the hitting categories. He's right up there, but I think he has the type of swing and the power to, in this scenario, just crank them out. Not quite like Adley Rutschman last year where it was kind of stupid, or Julio Rodriguez in those early rounds. Maybe not to that extent. But with this field, I think he can maintain a steady pace throughout the whole thing and not worry about gassing himself out in those late rounds. I do like some other guys, like maybe Jose Ramirez could be a sleeper. He just has to get under the ball sometimes. I think sometimes he has a bad tendency to crank it to like double territory a little bit, which is great in game. But in this situation, I think would slow him up when you're trying to crack dingers. So I'm going to take Bobby Witt Jr. as my favorite for now. That's as of right now. I'm curious to see what the betting odds will be. Maybe I'm way out of left field, or maybe I just picked the low-hanging fruit, but I'm liking Bobby Witt for this year.
Yeah, I think you're actually picking a longer shot here in this grouping, and that's just for no other reason than there's three pretty experienced home run derby contestants there. Pete Alonso, Adolis Garcia being top two among them. But I do think that I don't think those two are my picks either. They're not my favorites either. I'm actually going to go with a guy who's also a former stop here in Cleveland, a little bit older than most players, who to have a breakout year, if you will. But I'm going to go I'm going to go Teoscar Hernandez as my favorite to win it all. And the big reason why, obviously, he's having a breakout year. I just mentioned that. But I also think just in talent-wise, his ability to not swing and miss and make solid contact. And when he makes solid contact, ball go far. And that's the best thing I can describe. And by the way, just so happens to be hitting after Shohei Ohtani in the Dodgers lineup and behind Mookie Betts and driving that Dodgers team, which, again, like Lakers, anything I can do to not deal with the Dodgers is great. And that includes if somebody from the Dodgers wins the home run derby. That's great for me because usually that means they have a bad second half. So please let Teoscar Hernandez be the guy to not pull it off or to pull it off in the home run derby, because I need some messed up swings coming from him.
Hey, one can only hope. And we do have a prediction from our good friend Nate too with Alec Boehm. So, you know, we got a little bit of variety here with the predictions, both in here and in the comment section as well. So I'm looking forward to this one. Everyone let us know down below who you think is going to walk away with the home run derby this year. And that's going to wrap it up here for the tip-off. MLB All Star Weekend home run derby, one of the best times of the year. It's now going to take us into Kelcey's second favorite part of every show. Well, maybe third today, considering we had to light a beam. But that's going to take us now to the main event. And for the main event, we are going to stick with the diamond Yeah, diamonds are a girl's best friend, but we're gonna actually start giving out some hardware for this one. We're gonna give some mid-season awards. It's roughly mid-season, give or take 6 and 1 half a dozen, close enough to mid-season awards. We're gonna go AL, NL. We're gonna look at MVPs, Cy Youngs, rookies, and managers. We're gonna keep it quick. We're gonna keep it simple. We're just gonna go down who we think would be bringing home some trophies if they were giving it around right now. I'll go ahead and lead the way, and we will go and start in the AL. So AL, I'll start with MVP. I don't have a hot take on this one. I don't have like a surprise. I don't have like a flexing records. I think right now it's Aaron Judge at this point. Don't love the idea of it, but he's leading in so many major hitting categories. He's fifth in the AL in batting average on top of it. So it's not like he's just home run or bust. He's actually hitting the ball. He just also happens to crank it out of the park as well as anybody. Say what you want about Yankee Stadium, but it still gets out there. Top in RBIs. He's played incredibly well in the outfield too. It's not like he's slacking defensively. Like he's chasing records. Like he's chasing his own records from a couple of years ago. So I'm going with Aaron Judge at this point. I know there's some Gunnar Henderson's in that conversation. There's some other guys that you can make a strong case for, but I'm just gonna take the low hanging fruit. I'm gonna go with Aaron Judge on this one. I think statistically speaking, he's in a good spot for it.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's accurate.
We won't spend too much time on that one too. We'll go now into the AL Cy Young. This one I'm going to go with Tariq Skubal from Detroit. Top 5 in strikeouts, top 5 in ERA, top 5 in Ws. Pretty much for lack of better terms, the holy trinity of pitching, and he's top 5 in all of them. And a comfortable top 5 as well. Obviously, there's other stats as well to get into, but the three main ones there, it's like passing touchdowns, passing yards, and that sort of thing, and completion percentage in football. Like you look at those main three, then you work off of that. Top 5 in all of them. Consistently, he's one of the few bright spots for him. He's consistently performed. So I'm going to take Tariq Skubal, but I do think AL Cy Young's a little bit close to. I think there'll be some fluctuation. I don't know if it'll be this way in 3 weeks. I think right now I'm going to give him the slight nod at the top.
I like that, actually. It's unique, though, because the Tigers are one of those teams that are in a weird position, right? They're not necessarily the best, and we just talked about this in the tip-off with my opinions on having players represented, maybe not even from the best teams, but if they're the best player, why not? And I think that's a situation there where pitching-wise, it's hard to argue against them in the AL right now, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough one, man. The NL Cy Young is where it's really interesting right now. When you have two guys from the same team, arguably in the top 3, with Suarez and Wheeler from the Phillies, I'm going to go with Zach Wheeler from the Phillies. He's top 10 in ERA, just like his teammate, top 10 in wins like him as well. But he's also top 10 in strikeouts, where Suarez is in the 20s, I believe. He still gets the win, still get the result. I'm going to give him a slight edge towards strikeouts because when you can strike people out, I think it gives you a little bit of a notch above, and I think that's going to carry over into the second half of the season a little bit better. So I'm going to take Zach Wheeler for now for the NL Cy Young. I know in some places I have Suarez as a favorite, some have Wheeler. Incredible that the two best pitchers, arguably in the entire NL, are on the same team. Still absolutely bananas, and they both have like arguably the top 2 as far as like in the running for Cy Young, and they're both in that 2's ERA too. Like they're both playing fantastic. So we're gonna go with Zach Wheeler, knowing darn well that could change in 2 weeks just as quickly as the AL too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree that those 2 that you mentioned are 2 of the top 3. I have a different top 2, but you know what? I will give you one of them is there for sure.
The question is which one? Well, we will find out here very shortly as well. So for the AL Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Wyatt Langford for the Rangers for no other reason than he has been on a hot streak for the last month or so. So if it is a close competition in the AL, which I think it's much closer in the NL, which we'll talk about later, I do think for AL Rookie of the Year it's close, and he is right now the leader because he went ballistic for the last month or so, especially what he did to the Dodgers not too long ago. I mean, 5 home runs in 3 games. Yeah, I'll let that. That's a good way to propel you to the top, at least for this ranking as of right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think there's any doubting that.
Not at all. So next we're gonna wrap it up with manager, and for AL manager, I think this one, I don't want to say obvious, but I'm gonna say it for me. It's very straightforward. I'm gonna go with Stephen Vogt, the manager of the Guardians. Last year they would go weeks where they would struggle to get runs. This year they barely go innings without getting runs. He has flipped the team completely on its head. You have the leading hit percentage in Stephen Kwan. You have 2 guys in the top 10 with home runs in Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez. Jose's also up there with RBIs as well. They've pitching staff wise, there was a little bit of concern with their pitching coming into the year. No, they've been fine. They've pitched good enough to where they can win shootouts. They'll still have a few lulls here and there, but they'll score touchdowns in games now. Last year they were lucky to get safeties. That's how incredible their turnaround's been. So I'm gonna go with Stephen Vogt in the AL. tied for the best win percentage, I believe, in the AL at the time of the recording. So their turnaround's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great pick for the AL Manager of the Year, I got to say. A little disappointed I couldn't get to that one first, I got to be honest.
You know what? You're up next year, and you'll have plenty to go with. But before we jump into you, I'll go ahead and just recap for AL midseason awards. I got Aaron Judge as MVP, Tariq Skubal as Cy Young, Rookie of the Year Wyatt Langford, and AL Manager, as I said, Stephen Vogt. So, Kelcey, you are up, good sir, for the AL.
Yeah. So AL MVP, I think you're exactly right. Aaron Judge, top 5 in every hitting statistic in the AL right now, and I do mean every single hitting statistic. OPS, average, home runs, RBIs, runs, hits, all of them are top 5. Only player to be in the top 5 in their league in every single statistic. Now, does that mean he's the best in every single one? No, but he's the best in 3 of the 5 or 6 that I rattled off just there. So yeah, easily Aaron Judge, hands down, AL MVP. As of today, might change, but I doubt it. But betting, I will say, betting odds for the AL MVP, for people wondering about that, do have a closer race in the AL MVP than they do in the NL MVP. So say with that what you will, but kind of strange if you ask me. But hey, whatever. All right, so AL, I'm gonna go with maybe not the second best guy in the pitching world in the AL right now. I'm not gonna go Tariq Skubal. I do think that's a good pick. I'm not gonna go Seth Lugo. I also think he's probably up a good pick, and for most people, I'm gonna go Corbin Burns. I think Corbin Burns is having a good season. 2.43 ERA. He's also top 5, tied with 9 wins in the season. He's looking at top number 1 for games started, complete games. He's also in the top 10 there for the AL. So it's, there's no reason not to look at him and wonder, maybe he can do a little bit more. Especially, God, he's got a good team behind him this year. So Corbin Burns might finally get the love he deserves now that he's not in the NL anymore. So that's where I'm going. I'm going Corbin Burns here, and maybe it's a stretch. I don't know. We'll see.
I like that pick, though. I like that one for sure.
Yeah, so there's my AL pitcher, Cy Young. Now my manager of the year. We talked about the Tigers just a minute ago when you mentioned Tariq Skubal. They're in a weird position. They're 43 and 49 right now, 15 games back in the Central. Can they make a playoff push? I don't know. I don't know. But I want them to make a playoff push, which is why I'm thinking AJ Hinch. In the reality of this, though, I think I'm going to go with a division-leading team in the Seattle Mariners. And I'm going to go with them for their manager here. And for the life of me, I cannot remember his name. And I'm trying to find it, but it's not wanting to work for me. But yeah, the Mariners, given their season, given their leading the West, a division, by the way, with the Astros, where everybody picked the Astros. Scott Servais, that's who's their manager, sorry. But yeah, he is doing a great job. He's leading the team perfectly. I don't think you can ask for a better situation for the Mariners right now. You have one of the best players in Julio Rodriguez. You have one of the best hitting catchers in Cal Raleigh right now. They have a lot of talent across the board. And what they've been able to do in leading the West at the break is huge. And it can't be understated. You're not just leading the Astros, you're also leading the Texas Rangers. And if anybody remembers what the Rangers did in October, you will also be thinking, that's wild that they're leading the Rangers. Well, they are. The Seattle Mariners are on top of the AL West, and it's just amazing right now.
I know statistically he hasn't been lighting it up, but I think Logan Gilbert's been really awesome on the mound for them too. I know statistically he doesn't look quite as electric as some of the other guys, some of the other pitchers we talked about, but I think he's been awesome for him too. Like, I'm not gonna say it's a guaranteed win when he hits the mound, but Mariner fans, I'm sure, feel very comfortable when he steps up to pitch.
Yeah, they should. They just honestly, you should. If you're a Mariners fan right now, you should feel more than happy about what they're doing and what every player on that team is doing right now. Maybe there's a couple positions maybe you can complain about. In the grand scheme of things, every team has that. So the majority of your 9 positions on the field right now, plus your manager, are doing pretty good if you're the Mariners.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's a really good pick. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah. So last up, AL Rookie of the Year. I'm going Luis Gil for the New York Yankees. And so he does still qualify as a rookie barely, just because he didn't pitch enough previous games. He's got a 3.27 ERA, 18 games started, doing pretty well there. Only giving up 57 hits, 36 runs given up. His strikeouts, 111 strikeouts for a rookie, doing pretty good there. Overall, 1.09 WHIP. I have no complaints. Obviously, could be better, but he's a rookie. I don't want a lot from a rookie pitcher. I can't ask for a lot from a rookie pitcher. And when a rookie pitcher gives you that, it's astronomical and legendary. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But as of the AL side, Luis Gil for me is my AL Rookie of the Year.
Honestly, our biggest concern was, especially with Garrett Cole's injury early on, when we did our preseason predictions, we knew the Yankees were going to score touchdowns, and I'm using that analogy again. The problem was, could they stop somebody? Could they actually get people out? And he filled a lot of that gap, especially early in the season for him, and he's continued to do it. So he's, honestly, if there wasn't a vendetta against having too many Yankees on this list, you know what? Maybe he'd be on mine too. I kid, of course, but he's been sensational as well. He's been the best rookie pitcher, I'd say, very comfortably, especially in the AL.
Absolutely. So just to recap, MVP Aaron Judge for the AL Cy Young Corbin Burns, Manager of the Year for the AL. I have Scott Servais from the Seattle Mariners, and then Rookie of the Year Luis Gil.
So as we wrap up the AL too, with just a little note, just like winter, the Astros are coming, according to our good friend.
Stop it, Hector. There's not enough trash cans.
You know what? Just cover up this here right now. Just make sure no one can see my wire. All right, we're good. So now we're gonna head over to the NL. We're gonna go give out some NL hardware too. NL MVP. I'm not going to surprise anybody. Listen, I'm gonna go with Shohei Ohtani, the DH for the almost copy and paste everything I said about Aaron Judge to here. He's near the top in everything. The only thing he doesn't really do is play defense because he's a designated hitter and he can't pitch right now. And Mookie Betts left the lineup. He stepped up his game too. Like obviously the Dodgers are the super team. They're the Thanos of the NL right now, so it's kind of unfair, but he's been sensational. So we're going to give Shohei the NL MVP for now. I think someone like Bryce Harper's not too far away. I think he's top 5 in a lot of categories, and he actually plays defense. So, I'm gonna stick with Shohei Ohtani, but I think there's a chance. So I'm gonna stick with him for this one. For NL Cy, go.
I was just gonna say yes. that's just safe.
That's a very safe pick. That if I'm putting down money, that's probably where it's going, even though the odds are like minus 300 or something like that right now. But we'll stick with it.
Yeah.
Let's see. And NL Cy Young, this is where it's a little bit fun. There's like 2 guys in the top 3. I think I mentioned them a little bit earlier. You got Zach Young and you got Suarez on the same team. They're both top 10 in ERAs. I think I already mentioned the NL Cy Young earlier by accident, but I'm going to go with Zach Wheeler. He's top 10 in ERA, strikeouts, wins. He's got more strikeouts than his teammate Suarez. They're both kind of in the top 3, I believe, for betting odds. I'm going to lean towards Wheeler because he has more strikeouts. He's top 10 in everything. Philly's been awesome. Like just from start to finish, they've been awesome. And pitching wise, you have 2 of arguably the 3 best in there. So we're going to go with Zach Wheeler for the NL Cy Young. I don't have any surprises here. Like this one, I think the surprise is I picked him instead of Suarez, but you can't really go wrong with him, and a couple others are in the running too. I think the NL Cy Young race is very, very competitive.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. NL Rookie of the Year, I'm wasting 13 seconds on this one. It is Paul Skeens, and I am not told otherwise right now for a variety of reasons, including the fact that he is very, very good. Yep. Yes. Okay, cool. We're not wasting any time on that one.
I don't think I need to say anything about that one, but yes.
That one felt pretty good. That one felt pretty straightforward at this point. It felt like CJ Stroud in the NFL last year for rookie, or Wembenyama in the NBA. Like those Rookie of the Years almost seem stamped, sealed, and delivered at this point. NL Manager, I'm going to go a little off the grid here. I'm going to go with Brian Snitker from the Braves. I know they're definitely not winning their division, barring an epic collapse, but you lose Ronald Acuna and Strider, 2 of their 3 best players at worst, maybe even their 2 best players, and they're still in the thick of things. Like they're still in the wild card hunt. They could still make a run for that division. Like he's done a very, very good job considering what the firepower he's lost. I mean, you're losing, if I'm not mistaken, the NL MVP he's done for the season, the reigning NL MVP, and your top pitcher, who your fantasy team knows very well what the plan was for him. I know you still have Matt Olson. You still have the Braves are still the Braves, but you don't just lose those top 2 guys and then continue to be homeostasis like you are. So he's going to get the nod for now. He's not going to win it. Our end of the season award is not going to look the same, but as of right now, a tip of the cap to even keeping them as competitive as they are at this point, especially because they had kind of a rough start to the season too. They weren't exactly setting the league on fire. They had to right the ship, but right now they're 8 games behind the Phillies. They're locked in that first wild card. They're fourth team in the NL to have 50 plus wins. Like they're doing a great job. So I'm gonna go off the grid with that. I'm gonna go with Brian Snitker for NL manager.
I like that. I like Snitker as the pick. I know he's not in the top 5 in betting odds right now, but I'm sorry. You do what you do against injuries. Why are you not up there? You're also still, again, leading your division, or at least competitive in your division. And it's tough to not want to give them a nod, especially when they end up taking a wild card at the end of the year.
The top wild card spot too. I mean, they have the best non-division leading record in the NL. Like they're insane. But just to recap my NL awards, MVP, we're going to take Shohei Ohtani. Cy Young, Zach Wheeler from the Phillies. NL rookie, Paul Skeens, no surprise there. And for NL manager, Brian Snitker from the Braves. Kelcey, it is your turn to straddle the NL. So how are we feeling with the NL?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to straddle this guy, that's for sure. I know he's about to probably hit everything that swings his way, or that comes his way, and that's Shohei Ohtani, my NL MVP. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody. We talked about how good Aaron Judge was, top 5 in every major statistical category in the hitting-wise in the AL. Shohei Ohtani, first in OPS. Average, first in average. Home runs, first in home runs. RBIs, hold on. Third in RBIs. Runs scored, he's a top 10 guy in runs scored. And in hits, he's second to the reigning batting champion in the NL, Luis Arai, who's probably going to win it yet again because the dude just only hit singles. So Shohei Ohtani has had a fantastic season, as you said. By the way, doing this with a torn ligament in his right elbow, his pitching elbow, and he's still swinging this well. So the reason why he can't pitch, can't play in the field, obviously that elbow. But yeah, still a fantastic case for MVP. Will likely be our first DH to win MVP. And that's going to be pretty good.
So what you're saying is our MVPs, it's like Biggie and Tupac. It's the king of the coasts at this point. You got the East Coast and the West Coast king. Like it's not, and they're almost identical as far as leading everything in their league. So no complaints here. We're pretty similar on this one. Luckily, there's a little variety the rest of the way, though.
Yeah, there is. And that's going to take me to my Cy Young offering for the NL. You mentioned Suarez, you mentioned Zach Wheeler as the top 2 guys. And for me, I'm going to say no. I'm going neither of those 2 options. I'm going to go with the third option, or depending on the betting odds, some have him ranked number 1 up with Zach Wheeler on their betting odds, and that's Chris Sale. You mentioned what Snitker's doing. Well, part of that is because Chris Sale has been carrying the load for that team. We finally seen Chris Sale, the guy that was worth a lot of money for the Boston Red Sox. We're talking 3rd in ERA, 2nd in WHIP, number 1 in the NL in wins right now, 3rd in ERA, 3rd in strikeouts. He has the top 3 in those 3 major categories, and he's the only one of those 3 I just mentioned that are in every single one of those statistics. And that's crazy for a pitcher. Again, you talked about the big 3 being strikeouts, wins, and ERA, but then you add in WHIP and you add in, WHIP and ERA. I don't know why I was trying to come up with something else. But no, those are, you add in WHIP into that, and it's just like 0.94 WHIP is insane. Sub 1 WHIP at the end of the year is already insane. The best overall WHIP ever was like a 0.85, I believe. So borderline there, superhuman numbers. So yeah, give me Chris Sale for my NL Cy Young award winner, just because there's still a second half to play. And I just said they're going to make the playoffs, so somebody's got to get the wins for him.
He's been far from selling this year, that's for sure. Like you would buy on Chris Sale at this point. He has been awesome, and no complaints here. I like that pick as well. I think him and then the 2 Phillies are definitely those top 3 right now, and it's insane to think the top 3 are all in the same damn division. Yeah,
and it should be that way. I'll be honest. I feel like it should be. I mean, really, the way the Phillies are playing, it should be those 2 guys, but then it also should be Chris Sale because, as you said, best non-division leader record in the MLB. Kind of crazy to think about.
Just the NL, because there's still a Yankees. But yeah.
51-39, which is insane. But that'll take me to manager of the year. And I'm going to go, and this one's going to sound bad, but I'm going to go Craig Counsell for the Chicago Cubs. And everybody's going to be like, what are you talking about? You're picking a losing record on this team, and you're going with that going to be a, yeah, exactly.
Pulling that one out of a hat, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I dropped it into a hat and decided, you know what, we're going to go with an underdog here. I don't think the Cubs were supposed to be good. I don't think the Cubs were really supposed to win more than 40 games. They're at 43 wins right now in the season. They're 6 games below 500, 10 games out of the Central, which we all know the Central is a crapshoot when it comes down to the end of the season. Currently on a 5-5 record. At home, their home splits, they have a winning record. They just got to figure out how to win away. 18-28 on the road is not a good record. But that team, what they're able to do right now, a lot of it comes down to Craig Counsell's ability as a coach. We've seen what he did at the Brewers for many, many years there, making them really bringing them back into relevancy after a long time away. Obviously, there were a couple managers in between that did some pretty good stuff, but look, Craig Counsell has had a great career as a manager, much better career than he had at second base. But he is doing a great job so far for the Cubs, and so I'm going to go Craig Counsell for my coach of the year.
What's crazy is, as you mentioned, they're not far out of it. They're technically at the bottom of the division right now, but when you compare it to the other two teams at the bottom of their division, they're 11 games up on the Marlins and those other teams. So yeah, they're like the best, worst team possible that can, with one good week, could suddenly flip it around and be like 3 games out of the division lead. So they're in the thick of it. And honestly, they were supposed to be that 25 win team at this point, maybe 30 win team. So they've already well exceeded a lot of the expectations I think a lot of people have. At least me. I was not exactly a Cubby when we were doing our predictions.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So that's going to take me to the rookie of the year. And this guy didn't start the season in the league, but just like you, what I did 10 seconds so far, that's how long it's going to take me to say Paul Skeens. Just because the dude has been absolutely insane. Since coming in the league, I mentioned what my AL rookie of the year in Luis Gil was able to do in 18 games. By the way, in 10 games, Paul Skeens has 5 wins and 71 strikeouts. So he already has only 40 less strikeouts in almost half of the starts. That's insane. His ability to throw his pitches where he wants to, his break on the ball, the tunnels that the balls all travel through before breaking are identical for the most part, and his ability to just throw heat and actually be a hoss in today's day and age is kind of insane. Because I literally got off. I feel like just a couple weeks ago, I was literally saying there are no, arms in the major league and a starting pitcher that you really ride like you would in the 90s and early 2000s. Like, you don't ride the guys through 8 innings and expect them to get you to 8 and then you just give it over to the closer. You don't do that anymore. Their goal now is get 6 innings and then we'll get to our bullpen. Paul Skeens doesn't think that way. Paul Skeens like, I'm going to go strike out 27 guys today. That's what it is, and it's okay. Triple-digit fastballs. He has the fastest recorded fastball of the season this year. His minor league numbers before he got called up, he has the fastest recorded fastball in organized major professional baseball in America. Needless to say, he knows what he's doing on and off the diamond.
Absolutely wheeling and dealing and stealing at this point. He's been on fire. I feel like it's not hyperbole to say a future multi-time Cy Young Award winner at this point. Like, I feel like
as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, barring injury. Like, he feels like someone that you could, for his first couple of years, ride to like that 7, 8-ish innings, then hand it over. Like, you could do that early on. They won't do it, but he's someone you could do it early on, then to elongate his career. Then you start doing like the 5, 6 innings, then go to the bullpen. But
yeah, he feels like a young Verlander is what he feels like. Anybody remembers Verlander? Verlander was hitting triple digits early in his career before learning, oh, hey, I don't have to do this every pitch. I can, but to extend my career and to win more games and to stay healthy throughout my career, maybe throwing 95, 96 to start a game is the better option, and then just saving my gas for the 7th inning, and then, oh, guess what? By the way, here's triple digits for you while I have 3 more outs to get. That's what I see with Paul Skeens. So it's definitely talent, is to say the least.
I like that comparison a lot. He does remind me of that early Tigers Verlander, like the one that basically they rode to a World Series against the Cardinals, and I think 05, 06. Like, he's got a lot of that in him. Granted, they got a lot of work to do around him to get to that point, but I do think him specifically, like, he's been absolutely outstanding. So no complaints here. We had the same NL rookie of the year. We said we'd take 13 seconds. We managed to turn it into a few minutes. Just how awesome.
Don't sleep on the plus 25,000 odds for him to win Cy Young this year either, because at the rate he's going, if Zach Wheeler or Ranger Suarez get injured and Chris Sale doesn't extend what he's doing so far, I mean, if Paul Skeens can keep it up, who knows? So maybe go place $1 and see if you can win 250 off of it.
Don't tempt me.
Exactly. So just to recap, my NL MVP will be Shohei Ohtani. My NL Cy Young, I'm going with Chris Sale. My NL Manager of the Year, Craig Counsell for the Cubs. And my NL Rookie of the Year, Paul Skeens.
Can't go wrong there. And let us know down below what you think of the midseason awards. Who would you change? Who would you take out? And what players do you think would are going to take home some hardware? Or do you think maybe it could be sneaky ones that get rolling at the end of the season? But that's going to do it now for the main event, which is now going to take us into Kelcey's favorite part of every show. And that is, of course, Crunch Time, brought to you by Outlier. Go to outlier.bet /HighLowSports. Get yourself a free 7-day trial. Bet smarter, not harder. Get everything you need with odds, trends, and everything you need to make some smart bets and see if you can win a little bit of extra money as well. And you know what, Kelcey? We're going to let you go ahead and go first in Crunch Time. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. There's a change with the U.S. men's national team. So, sir, the floor or the pitch is yours.
Yeah, if you notice behind me, the lights have changed. Now you have the red and the red and the blue, obviously the white in the middle. So there you go. No, look, it is a great day, as I said in the lead-in, for me and for every U.S. men's national team fan out there for soccer. Greg Berhalter is gone. He's out. We're done with him. Goodbye again, this time, thankfully, for the long-term solution. So happy about it. Can't complain at all about it. It took a while, but we're here. Now he's gone. Now the U.S. men's national team can go after literally anybody better, and which is a long list of better opportunities, better potential coaches. There's a guy leaving Liverpool that has known as the normal one. He has an opportunity to show up. You have great coaches that are still coaching for places. Whether you should believe what they say on Fox Sports or not, maybe there's a Carlo Ancelotti out there. Maybe there's a Jose Mourinho. Maybe there's a Pep Guardiola. Who cares? Who knows? At the end of the day, I'm excited about the opportunity for the U.S. men's national team with this best crop of talent we've had in my lifetime, with the most resources to get a manager, to get a coach that knows how to coach football at the biggest level. And I do say football specifically to say that this is no longer American soccer. We have moved past just being American soccer. We are at the stage of moving into being a football nation. And I'm okay with that. Obviously, we can't win in American football in the under 18 age range. So let's just go ahead and win in football, because that's where we're at. The World Cup's coming to home soil in 2 years. You have 2 years. You have 1 month to get a manager, and you have 20 months after that to get a team ready, get your solid 11, get your next 7, and figure it out before 2026 for the World Cup. I'm excited to see where this goes, but I do think this had to start somewhere, and I said it. I didn't think he needed to last this long. I think it needed to be done right after the game. Leave him on the runway for all I care. That would have been fine. He has shown to not be a great manager his entire career. He got lucky in Columbus in winning a title. He would not get lucky again with the U.S. men's national team, because you cannot get lucky at the international stage. That doesn't happen. You have to be a good manager of people and a good manager of tactics at the same time. You can't do one or the other at the international stage. And Greg Berhalter failed that test twice. So now you don't get a third chance. You're not Bruce Arena. Goodbye. So long. Thank you for your playing career. No thank you for your coaching career. Please move on and do not go to Atlanta United for the next manager, please.
We're not ones to ever advocate for somebody losing their job per se, but this was the right move. It had to happen.
Yeah.
You know what? For the UN's men's national team, cheers to the change. It was very much needed. As you mentioned, you now got 21 months until the World Cup. So if you get that figured out quickly, you got plenty of time to not necessarily miss a beat to figure it all out.
Yeah.
You still have time to work with.
The World Cup final, by the way, is in 23 months and 1 week. And yes, this is actually important because, yes, Columbus did win a cup after he left, and they won a real cup after he left. So he wasn't even a good MLS coach. Thank you, Hector, for finishing my point of that, because he did get lucky with Columbus, and that's just what it is. But yeah, no, again, you said it. I don't think I often ask for a manager's head for things. I try to be very calm and rational about it. But at the end of the day, when we get embarrassed on the biggest stage as a country, and the talent is obvious, the talent is there because you have teams and club teams, big international club teams, forking out millions and millions of dollars for American players to play there. How are we not able to win on the biggest stage? And yes, some of it does come to the players, but this case is more on the manager, and very rarely will I ever put all the onus on the manager. But in this case, it's obvious from tactics to game management that it is not on the players. And for everybody who says, "Oh, well, the players were saying we're heading in the right direction," after the game, after the loss, after they got eliminated from Copa America, yeah, they will say that because they're afraid of getting kicked out of the team Like what happened with Gio Reyna at the last World Cup. Do you want to have that happen to you? I wouldn't want that to happen to me as a player, so I'm going to toe the line if that's my manager. I don't want to go crazy. So yeah, I'm so happy Greg Berhalter's out. Players actually get to play like players now, and they're not going to have to play like his little minions who don't pass the ball into space. They're not creative. They're just, hey, we're going to be athletic and run straight lines or pass backwards. That's what we do. Like, that's not all there is to soccer. That's not all there is to football. Learning that is going to be the greatest thing to happen for American soccer.
Now, if they somehow pull off that World Cup in a couple of years, my goodness, just saying.
Just make it past the round of 16. I'm not going to ask for a lot. I just want to see past the round of 16. Don't be the first home country to not make it past the group stage. That's all I ask. I don't want to see it.
Just show up. That's all you need. Just be present.
We're already the first host country to not make it out of the Copas. So now let's not make it the first host country to not make it out of the World Cup.
Knock on wood. There's some history that does not need to be met. Like some history does not always need to happen. Some of it's better left as it is. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up Crunch Time here really quickly. I'll start by mentioning it is officially 5 years since we started this podcast. It started about 5 years ago to the day as of this recording. So just want to say a shout out to us. We've made it half a decade. We did it, and so far the completely real and not fake crowd is agreeing with us. They're happy to have us as well. And then I'm going to also round it out too. It's about a month away from a very large event for us. The Fantasy Football Expo is about a month away. Kelcey and I will be live there once again. Those of you tuned in last year got to see we got to chat with some really cool people. Follow our social accounts. We got to stand next to Des Bryant. He could still play in the league if he wanted to. Still stand by it. Maybe in a limited role. Not like
he can play more than Julio Jones did for the Eagles. That's for sure.
That is for sure. You could definitely do that. There is room for him, but it was awesome. We look forward to it again. And on top of that, this year, keep an eye out here for fantasy football. As we're going to do a lot more with fantasy football throughout the year this year. A couple of drafts, a couple of rankings, different things throughout. So if you are a big fan of fantasy football, our goal is to be one of the main one-stop shops for you using stats, eye test, good vibes, everything that goes into making a quality fantasy football team. We look forward to it. Our goal is to have top 10 rankings for each of the positions coming out by that Fantasy Football Expo. You'll be able to hear about them here as well as follow on our social media accounts to see them. You know, last year when we did the NFL predictions, we included fantasy football players to watch the last couple of years. Now we're just going to crank that up to another notch. So if you need help with your fantasy football teams week to week, we're going to do our best to help you out by not necessarily copying and pasting everything you see somewhere else. Maybe we could pull something out of the hat, surprisingly. We've had some good success in fantasy football. We showed off some of them at the end of the season, showed off some of our standings on the show. So maybe we could bring it to life, or we're going to come crash in our face. That's the nature of the game. But we look forward to trying to do our best to help you.
Well, as DJ said, we're going to do our best to try to help you guys get the best fantasy football team out there. I don't know why. Just DJ's internet decided to boycott him today instead of my internet boycotting me. DJ, I'll go ahead and wrap it up for us. But yeah, we'll do your best to get you the win in your guys' fantasy football league. Now, we're not going to promise anything because, well, you've seen me. I'm the good vibes guy when it comes to picking fantasy football players. So DJ's the statistics. I'm the good vibes. But hey, you know what?
You could avoid that too. You never tell. No one saw Puka Nacua being a top 3 fantasy receiver. Anyone says they did is a liar.
Exactly. So no, we'll put you in the top 3 hopefully. But yeah, we're not gonna promise it. But definitely stay tuned for it. We got a lot of great content. We're gonna be joined by a lot of great friends from the Belly Up Sports Network while we're there as well. So be sure to stay tuned for that and some nightly wrap ups with a potentially special sponsor for that. So can't wait for that as well. So for DJ in this case, I'll round it off and send everybody into a good night, and we will see you guys again next week.